What do the Minnesota Wild need to do tonight to beat the Dallas Stars? What is the status of the Wild's schedule heading up to the Winter Classic? Plus, are the Olympics going to happen for the NHL? We chat about that and more with Alex Micheletti today on Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. And just as a reminder, Locked On Wild is free and available wherever you listen to podcasts. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we're joined by Alex Micheletti to preview tonight's matchup against the Dallas Stars. Plus, we look at some of the COVID-19 news throughout the NHL and what the Wild have in front of them between now and the Winter Classic. We'll also talk about Jared Spurgeon and some other just general NHL topics as well. Thank you for joining today's episode of Locked On Wild. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, veteran Minnesota sports content producer with over a decade's worth of experience covering our favorite Minnesota sports teams, and joined as always by Alex Micheletti on a hashtag Micheletti Monday. Alex, welcome. How are things going?
Good. Just surviving. It's been crazy times in the sports world. So, and just the rise of COVID everywhere. So trying to just stay safe and, fingers crossed we continue to be able to watch sports, because without it, life can be really, really boring. So,
yeah. I would prefer to not have to go down the Netflix rabbit hole again. But
I think we've seen enough. Joe Exotic and Tiger King, and
boy.
Please, can we get live sports
Yeah.
all winter? Otherwise, it's gonna be a long winter.
What are we up to? I think 5 teams that have been shut down through the 23rd. Travel to Canada and from Canada to the United States has been shut down as well. So there have been a slew of games over the weekend that have been postponed. The Wild, of course, had their game against Carolina postponed last Tuesday, which is when this all started to kind of really flare up. They lost the Florida Panthers game over the weekend. Thursday's game against the Detroit Red Wings. Still do have tonight's matchup against the Dallas Stars, so we can, I guess, start there. And just looking at a Stars team that was red hot, much like the Wild, and now have kind of cooled off a little bit, but present a unique challenge because they've got good goaltending, and they also have some guys that can just really get it done that started off the season slow and have really caught fire recently.
Yeah, this is. I think it's going to be a completely different game than the last time we saw them at home. Hudobin was in that, and he's, as we know, he's kind of a character, and he lets in just goofy goals. And in what I think he gave up 7 against the Wild, or 6.
Yep.
And so that was just a really, really weird game. Like you said, one of the best lines in the NHL going right now is Rupe Hintz centering Joe Pavelski and our good old buddy Jason Robertson. So that's going to be a line that's going to have to be shut down. You take a look; some of their older guys are not doing it now. Tyler Sagan's been extremely cold. Same with Jordie Benn. And Radulov. Just haven't heard from these guys. But Joe Pavelski's kind of found the fountain of youth with these 2 young guys. He had 4 points against Chicago the other night, and our old buddy Ryan Suter and that D-corps has been they've been putting up a lot of points. John Klingberg got the game winner in overtime, and Miro Heiskanen, one of the best D men in the league. So yeah, we'll see. Ottinger's been hot, and Holtby's been playing good. So yeah, who knows who they're gonna put in there. So yeah, it should be a lot different game. yeah, we'll see see how it goes. It's going to be kind of eerie, just getting that game in, because probably going to be the last game before the Winter Classic. So
Yeah, it's just such a bizarre thing. And on the Wild perspective, it sounds like Rem Pitlick's going to be back in the lineup, and that does not come a moment too soon, because that third line for the Wilds, Kevin Fiala, Freddie Gaudreau, and Victor Rask, has disappeared. I mean, not like the fourth line has been super great. Shout out to Brett Marshall, who keeps tabs on how everybody does on a game by game basis with those player cards. Fourth line has not been particularly good, but the third line has been just non-existent for 2 or 3 weeks.
yeah, I think Kevin Fiala is really frustrated, and this what leads to us always saying that I don't think he's going to be back. I mean, they could almost trade him at the trade deadline, if things continue. I just don't think he thinks he's a third line guy. He's also not on the top power play, so I think that really makes him mad. And he's just not a really good fit with with Victor Rask and Freddie. I think they're thinking that you know that they can pick up the chemistry from the AHL days. That was a long time ago, and they're just not. He's got basically two grinders with them in Goudreau and in Rask, and so he needs more of a skilled guy with him, and
Yep.
I think that's what's really hurting his analytics, and what they're saying as far as scoring chances too. And then obviously, if you're on the second power play unit, you're not getting a lot of time, because the first unit takes up a good chunk of the power play. So, yeah, it's just really frustrating. So hopefully, definitely rather see Rem in there. He's definitely got he can handle the puck extremely well, and
Yeah.
set up guys. So yeah, I think that'll help Kevin a little bit.
I think Fiala would have somewhere around 10 or 11 goals if he had offensive minded guys on that line. But as you said, like that's not even what they're looking to do when they come into the game. I mean, it's a lesser version of like the Greenway, Foligno, and Eriksson Ek line. And they don't do what those guys do at that level. So it really ends up becoming a line that you're like, well, geez, like we got to get them out there to kind of keep them fresh. But at the same time, what are they really bringing to the table?
I mean, they're checking. They're basically just getting the puck out of the zone, getting it deep, and that's not Kevin Fiala's game,
No.
and that's not Victor Rask's game either. So it's kind of a nothing burger line. Yeah, it's weird. So definitely, I think Rem fits that that line better, and Victor can enjoy the popcorn in the in the press box. So.
Yeah, it's time for a change, and credit to Dean for kind of sensing that something needed to be done and doing so for this game, because as you alluded to, it's going to be the last one for a while. So we'll kind of shift gears to that and just take a look at what the NHL is dealing with, as it sounds as though there's a growing sentiment that the Olympics is not going to happen for the NHL. So we'll talk about that, plus more to come with Alex Micheletti on today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. The holiday season is here, and if you're looking for the perfect gift for everybody on your list, look no further than Built Bar. Built Bar is filled with an amazing assortment of holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, both delicious and healthy. Plus, there is an amazing assortment of flavors. Which one are you going to choose as your favorites? Will you go raspberry or mint brownie, cherry or double chocolate, cookies and cream, or peanut butter brownie? If you're looking for a stocking stuffer that's going to delight everyone on your list, Built Bar is the way to go. So head to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off of your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Continuing today's episode of Locked On Wild. Again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. Seth Topol joined by Alex Micheletti. And Alex, Teams are getting shut down left and right, and just looking at the schedule, the next game for the Wilds after this game against the Dallas Stars is the Winnipeg Jets a week from today. Not looking like that game's going to happen either, because not only have a handful of teams been shut down through the 23rd, travel between Canada and the United States from an NHL standpoint has been shut down as well. So it's looking like there's just going to be a pile of games that are going to be postponed here until 2022 starts, and I truly think we're getting to the point where the Winter Classic is going to kind of be the restart of this season.
Yeah, it seems like it. I really hope, fingers crossed for everybody, that they can reopen that border, because if they can't, I mean, then we're gonna just, man, then they're back to just scheduling games between Canadian teams, but that screws up everything. And so just fingers crossed that they can reopen it, and maybe just give this little flare up, just calm it down a little bit. You know, um, just reading articles like the 30 Thoughts article from Elliot Friedman. He was saying testing takes a little bit longer for whatever reason to get the results back. And you had guys testing positive like after first periods. Yeah, that can't happen. I mean,
No.
you can't have guys playing and then get pulled from games, because that means they have COVID and they can pass it to everybody that they come in contact with on the ice. And so it just makes things tougher and tougher. And some of these games that are currently have been being played, I don't think they should be going. Just take a break until the Winter Classic. I think that would solve so much for everybody. And then if the NHL isn't going to the Olympics for that quote unquote Olympic break, you could schedule more games during that break, I guess. It doesn't make much sense to have an All-Star game either. I think I think it's scheduled in Las Vegas, which you couldn't have a worse spot to be bringing a ton of people into. And I hope the NHL pauses that, just punts that for the following year too. Just try to make it, try to get as many games in as we can. We can't have another shutdown. We just can't. And the Minnesota fans deserve a Winter Classic, and so hopefully, as far as the games that I've seen with Dallas, they haven't played any teams that have had COVID issues. Like they just played Chicago, and Chicago was okay, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a key one, because then they come into here. So it's just fingers crossed that the Blues are a-okay. The good thing between both of those teams is a lot of them have already had COVID. So that's the lone bright spot in all this. And Russo reported that most of the team has had their booster shot too, with the Wild at least. So that on the Wild side of things has helps get them to that finish line for the Winter Classic. And it should be a fantastic game. The Blues have been rolling. You're wearing the St. Cloud shirt right there. Charlie Lindgren, just incredible story. Jordan Bennington got COVID. So at least he's ready to go for the Winter Classic. And Husso got hurt. So they had to call up Charlie Lindgren, who hadn't played in the NHL for at least 3 years, I think. Last time he was with Montreal Canadiens. Who he also beat during this 5-game winning streak. So it's always fun to beat your former team, but he's just been lights out. So it'll be interesting to see if they go with him or if they bring in Rusty Bennington. They still have some time before this Winter Classic, but that Blues team is rolling. They have the trusty Russians and Vladimir Tarasenko and Pavel Buchnevich, who they picked up from the Rangers. That has just been a lopsided trade. They traded him for or they traded Sammy Blaze for Buchnevich, and Blaze is out for the year. So, I mean, and Buchnevich is probably going to have, probably a 25 goal season. So that was a big pickup for the Blues. And what more can you say about Colton Parayko too? I mean, he just looks like a light Chris Pronger out there. He's just a monster and has been playing just lights out for that team. So, yeah, I can't wait for that matchup.
I know, and as you mentioned, the Wild's taking care of their boosters between Florida and the Seattle trip a month ago, is I think what Russo said. So that can explain part of the reason that the Wild haven't had to deal with COVID issues to the extent that other teams have. There are other factors too, but I think that shows, that this team really want to get to the Winter Classic without having anybody not able to play outside of injuries. And, as for what to do with the Olympic break, if the Olympics don't happen, I think because, a colleague of mine pointed this out, and it was a great take. Those arenas have obviously scheduled events with the assumption that there weren't going to be NHL games. So I think you leave it in, reschedule what games you can, tack on at the end of the year whatever gets missed. And yes, your playoffs are going to go a little later than they normally do. Who cares? That gives, for a lot of teams, that gives you to maybe where you're doing like one game a week, and the rest of the time you get to just reset, get everything ready, get everybody to where they're back and ready to rock, and then just hit it hard come March.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see how they reschedule some of these. Hopefully not a lot of back-to-backs, because the product just on those back ends of the back-to-backs can be horrendous. Yeah. You see some just blowouts from the team who played the night before. Give up 5 or 6, or just it's not a good product. So hopefully they can limit those back-to-backs. And yeah, it's this, who had ever thought we were going to have another crazy season like this, but we are. And it's like it's like the NHL version of the Squid Games, just trying to survive.
Yep.
Not only COVID, but injuries and non-COVID illnesses. Like I can't believe how much I've seen that in pro sports. Especially in the NFL. Just you see the injury report as non-COVID illness. It's like, what is going on? Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. It's really sad that we aren't going to see the NHL in the Olympics. It's some of the best hockey you'll ever see. You're playing for your country and everybody that's back home, and it'd be interesting to see it in Beijing. So I don't know who they're gonna bring over there. They probably won't be able to bring over college kids. I was joking with a friend on Twitter. Hey, call up David Backus, get Ryan Carter, Jimmy Howard, just all these former guys that played in the NHL, or what they'll probably end up doing is grabbing guys that are overseas in Europe leagues. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the KHL uses their guys for the Russian team, because Putin doesn't care, and so they would want to brag about the gold medal. So
right,
yeah, which would be interesting to see. If they let their top KHL guys in there like Datsuk and company, or Murat, our Wild guy. So that would, and Nail Yakupov and that character, and just the characters of Russian hockey. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, I'm almost nervous about the game tomorrow for the Wild. Just is it necessary to play? Just because we want the Winter Classic so bad. The fans deserve it. And you have Thomas Rhett playing during intermission. Get the crowd into it, and just some good ODR, outdoor rink hockey. So
I can almost guarantee if there is even a whiff of COVID with the Wild after the Stars game, and not to suggest that there will be, but if there is, guarantee they don't play on Monday against the Jets and they just get kind of shut down until the Winter Classic.
Yeah, it makes sense for both teams. Just do it. That the league makes so much money on these huge events, so
Mhm.
they can't afford it to just be postponed again. That would be
Right.
just devastating.
Well, let's finish up. We'll talk about some other Wild news. You mentioned Marat Hustendinov probably not coming stateside anytime soon. Plus, also the Wild without Jared Spurgeon. Maybe we'll try to get the latest on his injury status as well. Finishing things up today with Alex Micheletti on today's episode of Locked On Wilds. After this. BetOnline.ag has you covered all season long with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as the playoffs and bowl season are here. BetOnline.ag remains your number one spot for all of your favorite sports action this season. So head over to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code LOCKDOWN to receive that welcome bonus. The NBA, college basketball, the NFL's push to the playoffs, bowl season, the NHL, boxing, and UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline.ag is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. And again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. Seth Topol joined by Alex Micheletti on a Micheletti Monday. Alex, we're trying to get a better sense of what sort of timetable Jared Spurgeon is on for his latest injury. It looks like Michael Russo saying that according to Dean Evison, it is not a short-term injury, but will not require surgery. And also looks like Jordan Greenway may be questionable for tonight's game, but will still travel with the team. So a little banged up heading into tonight's game against the Stars. I find it so weird that the Wild go on that huge winning streak without Spurgeon, and then they lose Jonas Brodin, lose two in a row. I mean, there are a lot of other factors at play, but it just seems weird that you could theoretically replace one guy in the lineup, but not the other. And I think what we see is that while Brodin may be more of the quarterback of the defense, Spurgeon is still equally as and maybe more so important on the ice as well.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, you lose a captain. That just it hurts. It hurts. And he's played so well when he's been in the lineup too. Against Vegas, he had 3 assists. So
Yep.
yeah, just more adversity for that back end. Jordie Benn's going to have to keep playing well. They just, for whatever reason, don't don't want to play Calen Addison, and so Jordie Benn's their guy, and it looks like they want more of a veteran guy back there. So he's going to have to keep playing well, and guys like Dmitry Kulikov, who has been playing well, has got to continue to step up and help provide a little bit offense with Jared out of the lineup. So. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And Dallas has a lot of speed in their lineup, so yeah, it'll be an interesting matchup. They're gonna have to stay out of the box. Dallas's power play has been hot, like I said. Joe Pavelski had a 4-point night against Chicago, and they scored a couple times with that unit on the power play, and they got a power play in overtime to beat Chicago. So. Yeah, they're gonna be. It's gonna be a very interesting game. If the young, they'll probably play the young kid Ottinger, just because to play the hometown team. And so, yeah, he just had his birthday, so yeah, he'll be coming in with just good vibes, and hopefully the Wild can get to him a couple times, and and play well in front of Cam, because Cam's been playing lights out.
Yeah.
They should have lost that Sabres game by by a couple of goals, and he kept them in it. He kept them alive in the shootout. Just Fiala couldn't bury some of the guys. Just just couldn't bury the puck. That's a tough one. Buffalo, not only did they beat the Wild, but they basically made Paul Maurice resign from his job. So the Sabres had a hell of a week.
Yeah, the Buffalo, they're the better team killers, and I would hope that Dallas, if they do start Ettinger, does not do what they did the last time these two teams squared off in telling a particular player, Riley Tuft, cough, that he was going to play so that he got a bunch of tickets and then not play him. Although with Ettinger, I don't think that's going to be, I wouldn't think that would be an issue. I just am still irrationally angry about that.
Yeah, that's one of the most bizarre things ever. And then he dropped the line that that he could sell those tickets, but like I mean, he gave no warning, really.
Yeah, how are you supposed to sell the tickets an hour before the game?
Yeah, like it just and you're already dealing with the shock of not playing, and just like
Right.
because you're in that, as a pro athlete, you're in that mindset of, hey, you prepare your body, what you're going to eat before to play, and then not have it happen. I think there was a funny line the other day that Nico Sturm said he wasted a nice piece of salmon.
I saw that.
Yeah, for the Carolina game. So that was hilarious.
I can commiserate too. Sometimes when weather breaks out and stuff that I have to do is postponed, I definitely waste the pregame meal of like mac and cheese out of the box, or whatever the superstitious thing to eat ends up being in those situations. I know how he feels.
Oh man, just good stuff. Yeah.
It's been an interesting week, and so we hope that this is as interesting as the week gets. Hopefully, the Wild can get the game in tonight, get a nice, comfy little win, to where we can feel good about where things are at heading into whatever comes next, whether it be next Monday's game against Winnipeg, whether it be the Winter Classic on January 1st. Whatever else may happen in between now and then, we'll of course have you covered as much as we possibly can, and that's gonna put a nice little bow on today's episode. So now that your first listen is done, I invite you to tune into our bonus episode dropping later this morning. Felt like doing two. Was a little under the weather last week, so felt like being ambitious. We did a couple of episodes today. My gift to the listeners. So
your early Christmas present.
Exactly. There will be a few more of them this week. I can promise you that. Now that your first listen of the day is done, make sure to check out today's bonus episode. And then after that, check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Locked On Bets is free and available on all podcast platforms, just like Locked On Wild. Find us everywhere. Find us anywhere. Also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're on all of them with unique content in every single spot. Trying to keep you as up to date as possible on your favorite hockey team here in the state of Minnesota. If a puck drops in the state of hockey, Locked On Wild has you covered with new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.